but it's such a powerful question because people will tell you exactly what you should start, stop, and continue to do. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be at the top levels of leadership. It could even just be in your team.
Hey, good morning, Lynette, and it's great to continue on with our series here. And I think we kind of talked during our little break before we put this one in the can that we were going to talk about culture rotting from within, right?
Yeah.
You know, one principle that you and I share, and other people do as well, that culture is built from the inside out, right? You can't just go out and declare, although some organizations try and do it. You can't advertise your way to being a great brand, right? The same way you have to build it from the inside out. And culture is the same way. You can't advertise a great culture. You got to build it. And so you have to be very aware of signals where the organization is starting to deteriorate or even rot from the inside out. And we thought maybe we'd start to flag some of those indicators that we'd kind of watch for, you and I personally, and maybe our even add to this and think about what are the things that they look for. Does that make sense if we have that conversation?
Yeah, exactly. So perfect.
So can I start off with some things that I look for?
Absolutely.
So one of the things just internally, if I were to do just a quick walk-in, I start to look at things like just simple things like the housekeeping around the facility, like the if you walk into a facility, like what's the pride that's taken by the organization around the way the place looks and feels. Like I have a little worry if I walk into meeting rooms and stuff and things are all over the place and they're dirty coffee cups and no one picks up after themselves. And it's just one of the first flags.
I love that. I just want to say something for that. Do you know how I know a good restaurant? The bathrooms.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And right down to the soap that they use in the dispenser. I can totally tell how the restaurant is how my dinner is going to be, how the service is going to be, just through what does the bathroom look like, what does the soap look like. It's crazy. It's crazy.
If I were to build a great restaurant, I might build it not from the kitchen, I might build it from the bathroom back out, because it tells you so much about the kitchen, right? Because when you go into a smelly, dirty, stinky bathroom, you kind of go, man, people from the kitchen are coming here to use this thing, right? I mean, so
you might digress there, but yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing I look for is I look for things like all the things that people find a way to know about, like we don't do that here, or you're going to get in trouble if you do that.
The language.
To blame, and I'm going, okay, you know what? That tells me a lot about what really is going on here. When I hear a lot of that and then kind of connected to that is when the organization is built a lot around a lot of gossip, a lot of drama, a lot of and sometimes
will you as a leader hear that drama? Like usually drama.
You participate in it, you don't hear it. So, you kind of go out and you meet people and they kind of say, well, they actually are ones that also participated. So they say, I just want to tell you privately that so-and-so sucks, right? So if that's happening at the top of the organization, you kind of go, okay. I just think it's worry.
Okay.
Right? And so when people start to, and then there are the other indicators, like when top talent starts to go and start to leave. And because what happens, that old adage around great talent attracts great talent? A great talent leaving, other great talent do.
Right.
And that, and so I think people forget about that sometimes, is that why did so-and-so leave and what's the real story there? And gosh, maybe I should be thinking about it myself too. Like maybe this, maybe the ship's starting to sink, and then there's those other indicators too that are kind of very much in social media now. You have to be careful because of trolls and everything else, but Glassdoor, I think that's why Glassdoor is important. If your number's going down and there's a lot of people jumping on there. And so that's the external, but I think another indicator is when people start to use, like I really worry about when the primary way that organizations start to express their complaints are through other parties, like through the whistleblowing kind of thing or through anonymous things. Then I start to, so those are some indicators that I really make me worried and nervous that really have to be attended to. So I'll stop there. What are some things that, do those resonate with you, or do you have other
Yeah,
ones?
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I love all of those. One of the things that I've started to do with my clients is ask them to do an employee net promoter score. So a net promoter score is typically done from a customer point of view, and what do they think about would they recommend your products and your company to their friends and your products and services, yes or no? But then if you put a little E in front of that, it's the employee net promoter score. And I think that a lot of leaders still wait for that annual engagement survey to tell them basically nothing that they don't already know. And all it does is give a percentage, but then it really doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't tell you, to your point, what is really happening in my organization. And if they're not intuitive enough or care enough to go out and start to source some of those points that you brought up, then I think they're in big trouble. And I think, 2 or 3 vlogs ago, we were talking about what should we stop doing. Like, the definition of insanity is sort of doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. I think that the employee net promoter score concept can be done quite effectively in an organization. It can be done as often as you want. And it's really sort of a couple of questions, but it's meant for the employees to answer. And the first question is would you recommend this as a place to work? Would you recommend the products and services to your friends or social groups? And then there's the third question, and I really love these. This one is, what would you tell leadership to stop doing, start doing, and continue to do? And it is such a powerful, that's sort of a 3-part question, but it's such a powerful question because people will tell you exactly what you should start, stop, and continue to do. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be at the top levels of leadership. It could even just be in your team. What as a team, what can we start, stop, and continue to do? And I think that that's where you will get some very actionable thoughts so that you can put some actions to them to actually really start to execute on. And I think that's what will help sort of this rot from starting, really.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful, and I think we should be doing that everywhere. I think we should do an employee net promoter score. I think we should be doing the Glassdoor for leadership that I've been talking about. And when I hear you talking about that, I'm kicking myself for not putting that into action sometimes, because I've been thinking about all the years. And I think 100.
What were you thinking about? Sorry.
This idea of having the transparency of asking the question around, would you recommend this leader to your friend? Would you recommend this organization to your friend? Sort of a net or idea and thing. I mean, I think we need to make that a more open, very kind of constructive part of our understanding and our self-awareness for ourselves and our institutions and our leadership, right?
And it's such an easy survey to do. It's so crazy. And then the challenging part, though, is to take what people are saying and try to group it into some sort of themes and stuff. But I mean, that's easily done. You can, you can come up with this sort of the grouping and the themes, and then just take one thing and execute on it. And I think that you'll see some amazing things happen. It is such an easy thing to do. I think we just live in this sort of, we do our annual employee surveys, and then you do the annual employee survey and you don't get the results for 6 or 8 weeks because you have to be correlated. And it's just like, oh my God, how do you even know what's going on in your organization? And by that time, it's probably too late anyway.
It's not, and it's just not sufficient, and I think it's important, and engagement scores and all that has been important, and it's been useful, but if you have it as your sole item, I think you have to really worry. One, it's late, it's too slow. The other thing too is that you have to worry, and people are smart, and I'm not saying that they would intentionally game it, but if you get like really good scores, and you have to be careful that now people aren't saying, hey, I know this. A lot of good things happen here when we have good scores. So why don't I think I'll just give it a good score? Like, why would I, right? You know, like if we get a lot of kind of street cred from having a high score. Like, why would I go not give it a high score?
Yeah.
Or on the flip side, you know, I'll just, you know, sabotage it by giving it. So you got to be careful if you're just relying on that one item, that it's not really giving you the full, complete story or the truth. You know, you've got, even though there are 50 questions in there and all that kind of stuff, you've got to have multiple, you know, it's like the Internet of Things. You've got to have all kinds of sensors on everything to get a full picture, and be careful, because I'll tell you, there is a risk. You could have a very high engagement score, but the indicators underneath are telling you there is trouble on the way.
Yeah.
And because when it starts to drop, like, you know, you could have a high engagement score. You could have 90% engagement score, and people could be pissed off. Like, what good is that? And people are leaving. You're not attracting as many people anymore. Productivity starts to go down, but your engagement score is not. Really?
Yeah.
So you got to be careful. Anyway, I think got to watch for the indicators. Yeah.
That's great.
Rotting food in indicators, right? Got to go in the fridge and smell that. Is it, yeah? Is it past its prime? Yeah. So maybe we'll kind of spark some reaction from our readers or our listeners, right?
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, exactly. And how do they know? Like, I guess the thing for me is, what do people feel when they go into an organization? What sort of gives them a sense that the culture is a good place to work? Like, I would think about that. I think about that all the time. Even I go into my clients, and I can just feel how the culture is, and it's. I think sometimes we put limitations on how we act in a culture like that too. And maybe I'm digressing here, but I think about the leadership. They want to change things, they want to change the culture, but if the employees still have that sort of, oh no, we can't do that, or, you know, they won't have time for that, then you know, I think that, you know, at the end of the day, they won't respond to what the leadership wants, because they're not given the psychological safety, I guess, to be able to disrupt that. Anyway,
and that's a good place, I think. So I guess, just as you're an anthropologist, we're all kind of cultural anthropologists and leadership. That's why we come, you know, we're all together on these vlogs and podcasts. And sorry, that's my coffee machine going off there on the side. It sounds like. But I think I guess we're just saying to our audience, join in. Let's look for all the indicators. Let's look for more sensors, more complete stuff, and more pulsing, so we really know what's going on, not just
waiting for the annual survey.
Wait for the annual. That's great. Maybe that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
It's been a great series, and we'll look forward to the next bunch we put in the can, huh?
That's great. Thanks, Lorne.
Thanks.